Hi there. I'm here today with Alex Fennell, who, um, I are you CEO? I don't know your official title now that we're getting started.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, Mia and my co-founder, who is also my wife, we are like co-founders and co-CEOs because we're young enough that we divide and conquer just about everything right now.
I love that, and I have so many questions about how you make that work, but I think that's a whole different episode. So,
It might be.
co-CEO of Attention Grace, which is a company that provides incontinence products. And I think that is kind of a unique thing to want to do, and I just want to hear how you got started in this industry.
Yes, totally fair question. And definitely not a career move that I anticipated by any measure. But as I think with a lot of good stories, it kind of happened very organically. And I'll tell the story sort of from start to finish. So this goes back probably 4-ish years or so now. And Mia, so my wife and co-founder, we have 4 young kids, and she had been home. It was like a Saturday or Sunday, and she had been home visiting her mom. We live in Boston. She'd been home visiting her mom, who was 89 at the time and still lived like on the North Shore of Boston in the same house where she raised all 5 of her kids. And her mother was just this like incredibly independent, like sort of thoughtful, curated, beautiful woman. And Mia was there visiting her for having lunch that day, and she saw her mom come out of the bathroom stuffing her big used gray like pull up brief, let's call it, into the newspaper bag to get rid of it. So just like picture that like flimsy blue newspaper bag and then like stuffing like a used adult diaper into the bag for disposal. And Mia, who is an entrepreneur, sort of just I think it's just kind of baked into her genetics almost, sort of immediately thought to herself, well, wow, that's like really undignified, and was really struck by how it's that whole experience of watching her mom dispose of this product for a condition that she didn't even know her mom had, because her mother had been too embarrassed to share it with Mia or with any of her other children. And she was just really struck by how it just stood in such stark contrast to how her mom lived her life in every other way. And so I think her wheels started turning, and she came home that afternoon, and I was there unpacking. Our twins were still in diapers at this point, and I was unpacking the Honest Company box with like the baby diapers, the wipes, and all the rest that are, you know, cleaner and greener to varying degrees, and sort of more thoughtfully presented. And Mia thought, this is what my mom needs. And so that's sort of where the idea started.
Yeah.
And it's obviously been a long path from here to there. But I think importantly, we both kind of knew at that moment that if we were going to do anything in this space, we wanted it to be at least incrementally more sustainable, and more sort of thoughtfully designed around what we put in and on and around our bodies. And I can go
Yeah.
deeper into any of that.
There's something about incontinence and leaking that feels incredibly undignified, right? And
Yeah.
and I think, with some of the initial products, there was very little thought put into that. Like, how do we make this feel a little bit better? It was just, kind of all about the bare function and none of the things that you're, really talking about. It's always amazing to me when someone has an idea and then they're able to make a product, create a company, right? That is a very long road. Although I think the entrepreneurial spirit is, definitely deep in some people, right? And some people have it and some people don't. It's kind of a scary thing. I'm sure that's a little scary for you to live with at times. But that's pretty impressive. So, who do you gear your product to? Is it geared towards older women?
So great question. So we really are building, we built these products, and we're building Attention Grace, really to disrupt very specifically the incontinence category. So we look at our products as being for any woman. Right now, we started with women, and I can explain why if you'd like, but any woman that has incontinence. And yes, like as you know, probably better than I do. That audience does tend to skew a little bit older, but we've also learned that there are so many women at younger ages and stages of their lives for varying reasons, who are living with incontinence. So the overwhelming majority of our customers are, say, 50 to 55 plus, let's call it. But we also have lots of customers and know that there are, millions of women out there who are, for instance, living with MS. I think the most recent statistic I've seen is like 80% of women with MS live with bladder leaks. And there's a whole swath of the community of women who are going through different gynecological cancer treatments
Yeah.
that weaken your pelvic floor, that triggers the leaks as well. So it's not nearly the sort of like niche condition that I think a lot of people mistake it to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I think, for older women, sometimes older women are resigned and they feel like, oh, this is absolutely going to happen to me. And then younger women are kind of surprised, right? And it's very disheartening when you go to buy something and it seems, very targeted to someone who doesn't represent you, right? Is old, is frail, looks like maybe they're in a nursing home. Not that those people don't need help too, but this is such a common condition in young women, beautiful women, athletic women, right? And those women feel a little bit forgotten.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's certainly true within this category. And I think true, for women generally as we get older. We used to, in the beginning, we used to talk about how, when you're in your like 20s and 30s, and maybe even to some degree into your 40s, you're kind of everyone's brand darling, and brands are like vying for your attention. They're really wanting to they want to align with you and your personal values
Yeah.
and all the rest. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, no one's talking to me anymore. Yeah. So definitely very much trying to sort of tackle some of that stigma as we
Yeah. Which is
get into
amazing.
this
So
category.
what makes your product different? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest difference for our like consumers, for women who are using our products every day, what we hear time and time again is that it's the lack of irritation, that their lack of skin irritation that they're having from our products. And that's tied to the fact that, so if you look at a conventional incontinence product, this was true for conventional period products, it was true for conventional baby diapers, that top layer that sits against our skin is designed from petroleum-based polyethylene. So it's basically a petroleum-based plastic that then traditionally has been treated with synthetic dyes, synthetic fragrance, chlorine bleach, that sort of thing. And so, as you can imagine, as you pause for a second just to listen to all of those all of those ingredients, right? It's not that surprising that for women who are dealing with incontinence, which is not like our periods, it's not just 5 or 7 days out of the month. If you have bladder leaks, chances are you're living with them pretty much consistently, and so that product is sitting next to your skin 24/7. And so we really wanted to design a top sheet that would be still really high performing, because obviously the products have to work, they have to absorb, they have to retain the urine. But we wanted that top layer to be super skin safe. And so instead of using a petroleum-based polyethylene, we use a green PE that's derived from upcycled sugarcane waste. And just sort of decided to leave out the bleaches, the dyes, the fragrance, and a whole bunch of other sort of questionable chemicals that are typically used to make that top layer. And so that's, I would say, our biggest differentiator. And when you said the word, when you described women as being resigned, I think that's it's the perfect word for, I think, the mentality that so many women have around this condition. And I think women are not only historically, they've not only been resigned to oh, this is just something that's gonna happen to me and I have to just suck it up and deal with, which we should also talk about the fact that that is definitely not true, as
Yes.
with your mission to help women find treatments and mitigate, if not eliminate, this condition altogether, which is obviously the gold standard. But I think women also felt really resigned that they've tried every product out there. They're all kind of just about basically the same. And when we came onto the scene and started meeting meeting customers and talking to women, we just kept hearing over and over again, wow, I've really like, I've tried every other product out there. This is the first one that's not irritating my skin. We have some women tell us they're getting less frequent UTIs,
Yeah.
so a whole host of
And
sort of
and
benefits.
you find so it's less irritating even for women that don't have sensitive skin, right? I mean, it's just a an easier product, but it's
Yeah.
equally efficacious. It still works.
Yeah, it definitely still works. Very, very proud to say that we did some independent lab testing in the last like 6 months or so, where we benchmarked our performance against all of the big
Yeah,
box brands, and in terms of like absorption and retention, we match or outperform all of the premium brands on the market, um, while still using these more natural components, which I think is really the most exciting
part of it.
piece of
Yeah,
this.
I mean, I love
Yeah.
the part that it's natural, and I also think it's amazing that it's coming from a waste product, right? I mean, that just seems like win-win. So, and it
Yeah,
makes me
yeah,
wonder
it
why nobody did this before, right? And we kind of just accepted these other products who, work for lots of women, but also have some limitations, right? And, I have a lot of patients that use, conventional products that are available in big stores, but then also have to treat their skin with a lot of different products, right? Barrier creams and such, so that they're not having that skin irritation. And that's, leaking isn't fun, but then having skin irritation and problems on top of it is just kind of salt in the wounds.
totally. No, totally.
Um, what about odor?
Yeah, great question. We get asked this a lot. So honestly, we don't add anything to our pads to deal with odor. As I mentioned before, a lot of conventional brands will add synthetic fragrance. Um, this is not a scientific or like data backed observation that I'm about to make. It's really just my hypothesis. I think that sometimes the synthetic fragrance can exacerbate odor. Um, I don't know if that's true. That's sort of a hypothesis I have, but I think with our products, we you don't see any odor because they're, in addition to the sort of top sheet construction that I described to you, Sarah. Our product, like it's sort of every level is, we use the highest quality materials. We've made sure to construct a really well engineered pad overall. And so they're absorbing the urine and then they're retaining the urine really, really well. And so if your product is doing the job it's meant to do, there's nothing to smell because the pee gets like locked into that core and stays there. And that's really how the product is supposed to function.
Yeah.
Um, I will say in our briefs, which is, our we call them briefs because we don't like the term adult diaper. In our briefs, we'd use a little bit of tea tree oil, but in our pads we don't use anything.
Yeah. I think sometimes what happens with pads is you get the urine odor and then you get kind of that synthetic smell or fragrance to mask it on top of it. And that is frequently not pleasing, right? Where you're just getting lots and lots of smells. And I think that that is, almost more identifying of leaking, right? When you have urine plus floral, it just,
Totally.
yeah, it is not pleasant. Um, what kind of leaking do your pads and briefs work for? I mean, is it just mild leaking? Is it all leaking?
Yeah, no, it's everything from sort of the lightest leaks all the way up to the heaviest of leaks out there. So we have our liners for super light leaks. We have a hybrid pad that is meant for light bladder leaks and period flow, which a lot of women like and need after postpartum, when
Yeah,
you're kind of dealing with
absolutely.
both both of those issues at once. And then we have moderate, heavy, and ultimate pads. And the ultimate pad is our heaviest pad product, and
It
really
sounds
geared
like you
towards
put
women.
a lot of attention and thought into the names as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, ultimate sounds powerful, right?
yeah,
Versus
yeah,
the ultimate weakness, right?
yes.
So I think that's amazing.
Thank
How do women figure out what pad they need? Do you have any help with fit finding or anything like that?
Yep, absolutely. So there's a fit finding quiz on our website, which is super straightforward. Um, and the way that we actually worked with, and I will say, prior to starting Attention Grace, I did not know that urogynecology was a field. It is amazing.
Nobody
Um,
does.
nobody does,
It's a
right?
secret.
Well, yes, we're trying hard to change that. Everyone needs to know that you guys are out there.
I had a
Um,
friend in medical school who used to call me that because I always wanted to do Eurogyne, and he would say, "You're going into Eurogyne, like European gynecology versus Euro, like urology."
that's really
It's
funny,
very
especially.
funny. Yeah.
Did you grow up in Europe? Am I
No,
remembering that? No.
I did actually. Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
we lived in Germany and in Paris for a while.
Okay. Okay. In any event, so yeah, to go back to your question, so we worked with one of our urogynecologists who was on our medical board to sort of craft the language in the quiz, and as we say, how would you describe your leaks? Light if it's drips and spurts, medium if your leaks are coming in like quicker bursts and surges, and then heavy if the leaks are in the form of like a surge or a stream. I'm sure that is not a perfect system, but that's how we sort of try to guide women through the Find Your Fit quiz on our website right now. But always looking for ways to improve. So definitely tell me if you have.
It's hard, and sometimes there's a little bit of a language barrier between providers and women, right? I mean, the way we
Mhm.
describe it and the way patients describe it isn't always the same.
Yep.
And sometimes when I talk to my patients and I'll say, "Oh, you're leaking," and they're like, "No, no, no, it's not a leak. Like a leak is little, right? Like this is huge, right? This is a huge gush, right?" But they'll say, "No, it's not. It's absolutely not a leak." And so finding that common language, I think, is important. Can you find your product in stores, or is it only available online?
No, you can, as of about a month ago, you can find us in almost 1,600 Walmarts around,
Oh, I
around the
didn't
country.
know that. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. I think it speaks to both, like, I think there's a clear recognition now that, you don't have to, I think that women of all ages and stages are demanding more natural, high performing solutions.
Yeah.
And I think also just this recognition that, like, you can make a product that is more sustainable and better for your body without compromising on the performance of the product, that the two things are
Yeah.
not necessarily mutually exclusive anymore. So um, yeah, we're very excited about just increasing accessibility and getting
Yeah. So,
getting
do you have plans to expand to other stores at this point?
we do. Yeah, we in the works. Can't talk about too much of it at the moment, but definitely in the works. We
Yeah.
really would like to be accessible as possible to women.
Okay. So, and if I don't live by a Walmart, which I don't really think is true for many people, but let's say I don't live by one of those 1,600 Walmarts, how do
Uh,
I find your product?
so we are also on Walmart.com. We're on Target.com. We're on Amazon, and then of course our own website, which is attngrace.com.
Do you ever give out samples or discounts to women?
So we don't do samples, but we do discounts. And I would love to give you guys a code that you can use that your community could use if you'd like.
I would love that.
Okay. Dr. Sarah 20
Okay.
will get you 20% off your first purchase with us. And unfortunately, you can only use that on our website. We don't have the capabilities to, like, have you use that code at our retailers, but you can use it on our website.
Yeah, I think that's great, right? And as long as you know where to go and do that, I think that's great. Because I think a lot of times women are reluctant. If you have a product that's working-ish for you, I think sometimes women are reluctant to change, right? Especially
Totally.
if you're going to buy a bunch of pads and you're just not sure if they're going to work for you.
Yeah.
How does the price of your product compare to the price of other products?
Yeah, so we are priced competitively with all of the like big box premium brands. So the Tanas, Poise of the
Yeah.
world. And then I would also say too that when we launched into Walmart, we were able to launch in, we're the first brand in our category to launch in fully paper packaging. So we're in craft paper bags on shelf at Walmart, which I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
But one of the one of the related sort of benefits of going into that paper packaging is that our pack size is smaller.
Okay.
And so you can try our products off on the shelf at Walmart or on walmart.com, and it's a much smaller pack size. So it's, call it $10 to try a
Yeah.
pack of pads, which I will encourage more women to like give it a shot because it's true. It's like it's a very high trust space. So you
Yes.
have to really uh, you have to earn her trust to get her to try.
Yeah.
And yeah, so hopefully that's going to make it more accessible.
Well, and I think having it online is always a good thing too, right? Because I don't think many women like standing in the incontinence aisle, right? Kind of looking through things and reading. And so I think when you can do it online, it's a lot more helpful too.
Yep.
So, I mean, to summarize, you would say your product is easier on your skin, right? There's less skin irritation. There's minimal odor or no odor associated with it. It's eco-friendly. It's packaged in paper. Um, yeah, so I mean, I think so appealing to so many women in so many ways. What are the reviews? I mean, what do you hear from women about your product?
Um, yeah, the reviews are what keep us going because you're definitely right that it's been a long path to get here, and we're still very young as a company. But I can't tell you like every day without fail we get multiple reviews or people calling. We have an amazing customer service rep that works with us, and she just the calls that she gets from women there are like, this is night and day different, game changing products. I'm getting back out and doing things again.
Yeah.
I think there's such a huge correlation between um, the stigma and shame and fear that women living with bladder leaks sort of have on a day-to-day basis that keeps them from doing things that they love or seeing friends. Huge There's this terrible statistic about women being afraid to laugh in public. And so we get these reviews coming in, and it's really all about women speaking to their quality of life being better
Yeah.
on like a day
I
basis. And
know
that
that feedback is hugely motivating. I mean, I get asked a lot why I do what I do, and that's the reason why, right? Because when someone comes to you and says, I'm playing pickup basketball with my child, I'm going out, I'm laughing, I'm not afraid to go out to dinner anymore, I'm engaging more. All of those things are just so very meaningful when you can impact somebody's life that way. And I think incontinence really gets minimized. Most people don't realize what a huge impact it has on your life. Even to the point where, there are statistics that most women who have incontinence don't tell their friends and don't tell their partners. So there is a lot of shame there. So anything that you can do is amazing. And, even women who go on to treatments and have their incontinence cured, everybody needs pads at some point in time. And having a good product is so important.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I love the work that you're doing. And I think something we did early days was to set up, and you're obviously up there as well. We set up a resource directory for women to, tap into plug in your zip code and get connected with your
Yeah.
gynecologist like yourself, pelvic floor therapists. There's so many different modalities
Yep.
and treatment options. And my strong sense is that most women are not aware that
No.
those are out there. And
No, and they don't know how to get the information, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons that I started this podcast is nobody knows who to ask, or they're just not ready to ask, right? And so we have to find ways of going to women and kind of giving them the information and normalizing it a little bit, and saying this is a system failure. There's no shame here, right? It's just part of your body that's not working correctly, and so let's figure out what we can do. So, and again, I think the incontinence products are so important. Sometimes the best thing I do for somebody is to help them find the pad that works for them,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Especially, there are a lot of points in time. I mean, I would fix all leaking. Well, I should say I would prevent all leaking if I could. But um, there are a lot of points in time where women don't have time or capacity to seek treatment, right? I mean, when you're newly postpartum, you don't have time to think about that, right? And then you need something that works and feels okay or feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No.
well, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for spending this time with me. And thank you for the discount code. Everybody loves a good deal. And what are your next steps? What next hurdle are you conquering?
I mean, we have we have a new product in development that we're excited about. That's kind of longer term, but really, I think really excited to get back to kind of, we had a big push with getting into Walmart, as you can imagine, and
Yeah,
now just excited to like figure out how we get on the radar screen of more and
yeah.
more women. So
Biggering and biggering. Well, and I think
figuring.
just furthering the conversation, right? Which is so important. So thank you so much and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely chatting.
Yeah.